Hello, everyone, and welcome to Full Time, where we take you around the world of soccer, locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally. Full Time is presented by the Game Sports Show and powered by the Game Entertainment and Media. You are listening to Season 3, Episode 12 of Full Time. I am your host, Daniel Scarpino, and with me is our co host, Gitano Gallo. Before we begin today's show, Full Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza. With their 2 locations in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, you can download and access the Pizza Portal app so you can enjoy a delicious hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars today. We remind our listeners that recordings of Full Time occur weekly or bi-weekly, and uploads to all of our platforms for public viewing and listening occur weekly or bi-weekly as well. Folks, we are delighted to have you here with us on Full Time. The opportunity to speak with you all about the beautiful game is something that we have been so much looking forward to. Gee, my brother, I know the answer to this question already, but damn it, I'll ask it anyways. How in the heck are you?
I'm doing pretty good, Just a couple big games, a couple big results. So yeah, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm not doing nearly as good as you guys, Tano, but what I will say is that I'm doing great, and that's it's definitely more than I could ask for. In today's show, we've got the heaviest of lineups, probably the heaviest that we've gone through in the past long while, probably since the World Cup. But we're going to get everyone up to speed on some major moves in the world of soccer. We're going to wrap up La Liga and Serie A. We're going to take a look at the result of the FA Cup final, the Conference League final, the Europa League final, and the Champions League final. As well, we will take a peek at the MLS and give everyone a local and regional soccer update. As always, if anyone would like to listen to our previous content, please check us out at Full Time on the Game Sports Show. And without further ado, Gaetano, and to everyone who has taken the time to tune in here today, we begin today's show by looking at some of the major moves that have been announced in the world of soccer. First and foremost, and most notably, Lionel Messi. Messi has officially announced that he will be moving to the MLS and playing at Inter Miami. Gaetano, a massive move here for arguably the greatest player to ever grace a football pitch. What can you make of this stunning announcement?
He is going to score hundreds of goals. He's still so good, and as much as I love MLS, it's just not at the level that Europe is right now. He is going to come here and he's going to dominate, and it's going to be phenomenal to watch. Like I will happily pay $250 a ticket to go to Toronto to see him destroy us. If he scores 10 in a 10-0 loss for Toronto FC, I will be more than happy with it.
Yeah, you and I'm pretty sure everyone else, including myself, that would attend such a game. It's incredible because I'm not going to lie to you. I really thought that Barcelona was really on the cards. It seemed as though that there were a lot of arrows pointing in that direction, that he was going to go back, but it fell through. And then I thought it may have been Saudi. And then all of a sudden it was the MLS. For you, did it kind of come out of nowhere? Did you think, oh, this could be a possibility?
So I've thought it could be a possibility for a while now. I actually thought when he first left Barcelona that the MLS would be a great move for him at that age. Obviously, I was very wrong. He's still, capable of playing in Europe at the highest level. But I'm not surprised that he's ended up in Inter Miami. It's David Beckham's team, so obviously there's a connection there. And just it's I don't want to disrespect the Saudi Pro League, but it's just not at the level of MLS right now. It seems very much like MLS in its kind of early days, where it's just trying to get big names to get some
Right.
eyes, and then eventually it'll kind of grow that way. Whereas MLS is a lot further along that path to becoming a real top league in the world. So I think it just kind of makes a little more sense for him to be an MLS. And yeah, I love the move.
Yeah, and for me, I was really pleasantly surprised because when I heard that, I thought to myself, okay, well, we're getting one of the biggest stars today of all time, etc., and it's going to be great to see, and it's going to be so huge for the league now that he's there. And you want to talk about growth? I think that this shoots them in an upward trajectory that we could have never ever imagined. So really looking forward to him playing at Inter Miami, and even if they do batter Toronto FC, I'll gladly accept it, just like you. And we were talking about Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia is getting more stars coming their way for increasingly high player fees. It's Karim Benzema and N'Golo Kante who will make their way to the Saudi Pro League. Gee, these are 2 incredibly high-profile players who have insanely good accolades to their name, both domestically and on the international stage. They joined the Saudi Pro League and have ultimately drawn the attention of so many footballing fans, similar to how Cristiano Ronaldo did. What are your thoughts on these two moves specifically?
I think they're great moves for the players. They're both in their mid to late 30s, probably not going to get that type of money and longevity of contract in Europe. So to kind of secure one final payday to help grow the sport in a part of the world where it's kind of still developing, I think all around is pretty good. And if we're being real, like if anyone offered you 100 million to play soccer anywhere, you're saying yes, right?
We're
Like,
going. Yeah.
but yeah, no, I think it's great for them. We know like they have nothing left to prove. They've won basically everything they can across Europe, so I think it's great for them.
I think it's also great for them, and it makes total sense on their part for age, where they are in their career, for money, etc. I found it to be a little bit, I guess we'll call it funny, when Ancelotti said that he's happy for Benzema, but he didn't see the announcement coming. I don't know if he just said that out of, I don't want to say spite, but if he really didn't see it coming, I do find that to be quite interesting because, yeah, I don't know. It just seems like going to Saudi Arabia doesn't just come out of the blue. It seems like it's probably premeditated in some way, shape, or form. But nevertheless, these are two huge stars that are going to join Ronaldo in the Saudi Pro League. And you were just talking about it a moment ago, really how it's nowhere near to the level that the MLS is. It's going to take a long time to grow. But the one thing that the Saudi Pro League has is a lot of money. Do you think that they're going to continue to attract a lot of stars, G?
I mean, money talks, Scarps. I
Sure.
think again, like very similar to early MLS with Thierry Henry,
Yeah.
even David Villa, Andrea Pirlo. Like it kind of takes some time. You have to splash the cash a little bit to kind of attract these guys, and then the league will kind of settle down. I guess would maybe be the best term for it. Once there's kind of enough domestic interest in it, and then that international interest will come with that.
Yeah, and I think that you just described that beautifully better than I could, certainly. But Ronaldo did say in one of his most recent interviews that he believes that the league is going to be well on its way to challenging for Europe's Big Five in a quicker period than most people realize. So we'll wait to see if that happens. I'm sure that it is going to continue to grow and continue to get better. But when these sorts of names are going to your league, you've certainly got to be satisfied from that point of view. Gaetano, let's move it on over for the final time this season to Europe's Big Five. Now, we are only going to be talking about two leagues here, but it's important that we, of course, wrap up how the table looks now that these two leagues in particular are officially over. In Italy, Serie A, the final standings for all European places are as follows. Napoli, who of course won the league, Lazio in second, Inter in third, AC Milan get fourth, Atalanta squeak fifth, Roma gets sixth, and Juventus grab seventh. G, an exciting race overall for the European places in Serie A. Your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I think, at the beginning of the season, these probably would have been the 7 teams I would have had in this ballpark. Order maybe slightly shifted around, but I think, yeah, I think it was pretty, I don't want to say standard for Serie A because it was a very, very not standard year with the way Napoli played, the Juventus scandals. But yeah, I think over the course of the season, I think it was very well earned for all the teams and a pretty fair representation, I would say, of the season.
A fair representation. I think that's a good way to put it for sure. And Gaetano, what I would say is, well, from a consistency point of view and a performance point of view, Serie A was probably the best that we've seen this season out of Europe's Big Five. Obviously, the Bundesliga that had the best title race, the Premier League had the best quality, but Serie A had the highest competition for the battle of the European places because up until the last couple of match days, there was legitimately 9 or 10 teams who, were in the running to get one of the European places, especially with how Juventus got points stripped away and these sorts of things. And not to mention the likes of Inter, AC Milan, Roma, Fiorentina, and Juventus, who went deep into European competitions as well. So Serie A certainly treated us to some great football this year, and it was incredibly competitive. In La Liga, the final standings for the European places are Barcelona in first, as we good and well know. Real Madrid gets second. Atletico Madrid rather are in third. Real Sociedad claim fourth. It's Villarreal who get fifth. Real Betis who get sixth, and Osasuna who grab seventh. G, your thoughts on the top finishers in La Liga?
Yeah, a couple surprise European spots there, but very welcome surprises. Osasuna and Real Betis snagging those last spots. Again, really happy to see Real Sociedad, led by David Silva, back in the Champions League. And yeah, pretty bog standard with the top three of Barcelona, Madrid, and Madrid. Really, really poor season actually for the Spanish teams in Europe, except for for Sevilla. But it's a little disappointing that they finished 12th, but obviously we'll get to what they accomplished a little later. I was pleasantly surprised by it.
Yeah, for sure. And it was a case of, for the most part, Barcelona and everybody else, but also at the same time, like you said, nice to see those couple of surprises. And that is officially a wrap on Europe's Big Five for the year. Gitano, of all leagues, and I'll ask that you exclude Manchester City winning the Premier League title on this one, unless if you can't, of course. But what would be your biggest highlight of the year from Europe's Big Five?
So if you want me to exclude City, I'll exclude City.
You don't have to. If you can't, I totally understand, because I wouldn't want to exclude Arsenal winning if they were to win. But if you could, that'd be great. If not, I understand.
Specific moments, the 6-3 derby against United, Foden, Holland hat-tricks was just, phenomenal, seeing two boyhood City fans, score hat-tricks against United. But across Europe, the final day of the Bundesliga was just incredible. It was really nice to be a neutral in that, because I can't imagine having allegiances during that. That would have been awful. But it was just so exciting. There was at least like 2 or 3 times where different teams were at the top of the table. Some really, really, really late goals to seal it. It was perfect. Exactly what you want from the last day of any league.
Yeah, and I was a little bit torn on this, because that was actually like sort of my 1A choice for highlight of the season, because obviously I want to say Arsenal getting sort of back to where they should be. In my opinion, the seasons of having no hope and misery, now that finally I was able to dream again, that was a highlight for me personally. But I would say that my overall highlight would be Napoli winning the Scudetto in Serie A, because it was their first league title in 33 years. And no one, including myself, saw them winning the title, especially with the departures that they had from the team in the summer. And to do it as dominant as they did, for me, was just truly incredible. So that would be my highlight of the season if I had to pick just one. But in Europe's Big Five, there certainly were many. Gitano, it's the FA Cup that grabbed our attention like no other. A Manchester derby which was set to excite us all, and it very much lived up to the hype. After an Ilkay Gundogan goal put Manchester City up 1-0 just 14 seconds into the match, it was a Bruno Fernandes penalty that would equalize things. None other than Ilkay Gundogan yet again scores for City to regain the 1-goal advantage. In the end, that's all that was really needed. Gitano, it's your Manchester City who win the FA Cup by a score of 2-1 over rivals Manchester United. First and foremost, just your thoughts on this game alone.
Honestly, it felt like it was a blur. It was, it's probably the biggest Manchester derby that's kind of ever happened to this point that I can think of. Obviously, there have been big ones in FA Cup semifinals before that, but like FA Cup final, City United, it was huge. And it was tense for 13 seconds until Gundo scored, which God bless him for doing that, because I probably would have had a heart attack if he settled the nerves right down. It was really nice. But I think the game itself was pretty much as expected. City dominated a lot of possession. United tried to hit on the counter, and I think 60 to 40% possession, 11 shots by City. Basically what you would expect, and I think the result, the final score, showed that.
Yeah, the final score for me as well was very much justified. It was nice that it was a lot closer than what people imagined. And even on our show, we said that it'd probably be a 2-goal margin, and we thought that that's how it would be. But it was a lot closer than that. And I was out of town. I was in Petoskey at my soccer tournament, and us as a team, we just crammed all into one hotel room, and we all watched it. And it was brilliant, because on our team, we have a ton of United fans, not a single City fan. So you can imagine the misery that was going on in that hotel room, Gitano. But I'm sitting there and thinking to myself, I got one of my really good buddies back home who, I'm sure he'd be loving this. But no, it was a great final, and it was great to see for sure. And we've been talking about him in this segment now for a little bit here. But Ilkay Gundogan, what he did in that game, that was just so special. What can you make of his brilliant performance?
So this is actually something Kyle Walker said a few weeks back, talking about Gundo. But at the end of the season, the last 2 months of the season, he just turns into Zinedine Zidane. Mm-hmm. He scores, he sets up everything, he just is everywhere, does everything. You think back the 2 goals at Villa. He's just, I don't know, like there's something special in his DNA. He just is the man for the moments. Like that, though, he scored 2 goal of the season contenders in the FA Cup final against United. Both of them just just floored me. Like
Yeah.
you would never expect in a million years to be up 1-0 in 13 seconds the way he did it. Even that's one of those moments when Holland heads the second ball and the ball's in the air and Gundo's running onto it. We're like, when we're playing soccer, if the ball that happens, you're yelling, "Oh, hit it!" Because haha, it's gonna fly over the bar. And like I was sitting on my bed right here, and I was like, "Hit it!" and it flies into the top corner, and it was perfect. It was brilliant. He's just brilliant. I'm out of words for him. He's just the best.
No, he's immense, and obviously we shouldn't be talking about this now. We'll have to save it for July if and when it does happen. But there is some talk that he might leave City, and because he's been saying too, I don't know what I'm going to do next. But it's going to be hard to see or even think of him leaving. City captain, as we're going to talk about, just done the treble. Amazing performances, especially in the last few months of the season. But he is just special. And what he did in that FA Cup final was, in some ways, indescribable. So he was truly amazing. And for you, Gitano, yes, of course, City win. But United, as we said, did make it difficult. And my question for you here is, what can you say about how you feel about this one? Because I know that you wanted this one badly. You even said in some cases that you were more nervous about this one than you were the Champions League final. So to do it against your rivals, as we know in all sports, always special, but even more so in soccer. The floor is yours, sir. How do you feel about this one personally?
It was a really kind of full circle moment for the club, not just for me. In 2011, kind of a couple years after the Sheik took over, the FA Cup semi-final, City United. Sir Alex Ferguson had called us the noisy neighbors. Not in my lifetime was his famous quote. But City went on to beat them 1-0. Yaya Toure scored the only goal, and it was kind of like the power started to shift. That's when Manchester started to turn a little blue. So to beat them in the FA Cup final, 12 years later, it's full circle. Like Manchester is fully blue now. It's not up for debate anymore. They can have the past because we've got the present. It's just everything beating United. I don't care whether it's like the senior team, the women's team, the youth teams, whether you're playing the preseason friendly, like you have to beat United. I'm a pretty reasonable fan. I try not to be too unrealistic, but when you play United, you have to beat them every time. No exceptions. There's no excuses. And to do it on, basically England's biggest stage was just perfect.
Yeah, and I share the same sentiment because I feel that whenever Arsenal play Tottenham, it's not even a draw is a loss. You have to beat Tottenham, and I understand that you have to beat United, but it's incredible. Like you mentioned there, 12 years. Football, there's no sport like it, how you can have a complete and total change within one specific place in the world in the space of 12 years, because now, as you said, Manchester is blue, and there is no argument against that. And once more, it is Manchester City who are the 2023 FA Cup champions. This is Daniel Scarpino and Gitano Gallo, and you're listening to Full Time on the Game Sports Show. A reminder that Full Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza. You can download and access the Pizza Portal app for any of the 2 locations in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Have a delicious hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars today. Shifting gears to Europe now. Let's have a look at the Conference League Cup final. The final took place between Fiorentina of Italy and West Ham of England. After 2 goals in the space of 5 minutes, 1 goal for each side respectively, saw the game all square. It was Jared Bowen who popped up for a 90th minute winner. West Ham who win the Conference League by a score of 2-1. On a slightly lesser note, although very admirable nonetheless, West Ham also go undefeated in the entire competition. Gitano, what can you say about this huge win from West Ham?
This is huge for them. I couldn't tell you the last time they won any sort of major trophy. They've been kind of just a mid-table team in the Premier League for a very long time now. They've had a lot of poor seasons. Let's be real. So for them to turn it around, get a European trophy, Conference League or not, it's not the biggest one. doesn't matter. Still European trophy. It's huge for them.
Yeah, definitely huge. And I think David Moyes deserves a lot of credit because, like you said, mid-table for a very long time, but in the past couple of seasons, been flirting with those European places, getting into the Europa League, and now winning the Conference League. That's a difficult thing to do, and to be a club in London when you're going up against the likes of Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham, these sorts of things. He's brought a lot of stability to that club, and for them to win a European title is absolutely huge. And just your thoughts, G, on this cup competition, because it is new over the past couple of seasons. But what do you have to say about it personally? Because we saw it last year with Roma, this year we see it with West Ham. What are your thoughts on it?
I really like it. I like the idea of giving, kind of mid-table, like upper mid-table teams, a chance at a European trophy, because let's be real, like West Ham and Fiorentina, probably not challenging for a Champions League unless something, dramatic happens in the next couple of years. So for them to be able to challenge for a European title, give those fans the opportunity to travel around Europe supporting their team and celebrating with the team, I think it's phenomenal.
I think it's phenomenal too, and it's more soccer on, again, like you said, not the highest stage by any stretch of the imagination, but it is European football, and it makes it so exciting. And you said you didn't know the last time that they won a title, folks. West Ham do claim the Europa League Conference League title and their first European title since 1965. So well done to West Ham. It's been a long time coming. The Europa League final, a little bit of everything, and it was decided on penalties in the end. The match between two prolific sides, Sevilla of Spain and Roma of Italy, saw this game go the distance, only for it to be decided from the penalty spot. After the match ended 1-1, it was Sevilla who prevailed on penalties by a score of 4-1. Gitano, huge controversy in this one with referee decisions. Did Roma have a case that they were a bit hard done by in this final?
Yes and no. The decisions felt very much, if you're a Roma fan, they went against you. But if the roles were reversed, Roma fans wouldn't have want them called. So I do feel for them, but at the same time, I think the referee got it right.
Okay, fair enough. And I think there's a lot of people who are on both sides of the aisle on this one. Obviously, I think the abuse that the referee, I think it was Anthony Taylor, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
got after the game in the airport, everywhere else, probably wasn't deserved. I don't think anybody really deserves that. But it probably begs a bigger question if referees should have to answer to some questioning, because I do have some questions as well. I'm not sure that I don't want to say that the result was justified, because the game was probably going penalties anyways, maybe. But yeah, it's I don't want to say it left a bit of a stain on the game, but unfortunately, there's still a lot of question marks around it instead of us kind of celebrating that Sevilla win purely. But Sevilla, nevertheless, they do win this competition yet again for a record seventh time. Never actually lost in this final each time that they've been in it. So 7-0. How does this team do it, G?
I don't know. There's something in the water in Sevilla, man. Like they just are born and bred to win this competition. I thought it was a great final, super entertaining. The Dybala goal was great. Yeah, I thought it was brilliant. Sevilla absolutely deserved it, and are kings of the Europa League again.
Again, yes, and we say that so often, and they finished mid-table in La Liga, and then all of a sudden they're dominating this competition. So how you don't know how they do it, I don't know either. But what I do know is that right now in Roma, it's misery for that club, and the big question here is, Gaetano, if Mourinho is going to remain the manager of this great Italian club. What do you think? Does he stay or will he go?
How many years has he been there?
I think that this is now his second season, if I'm not mistaken, unless if it's his third, but I want to say two for sure. I thought last year may have been his first.
Yeah, because he typically only does 3 years at a club before he just implodes. So if it hasn't happened yet, it'll probably happen at some point next season. So I think he'll stick around for a little bit. It'll all kind of blow up, and then he'll be out.
Yeah, and the thing of it is too, I don't know, and I don't have it with me, of course. I don't want to say it, but they haven't spent much money. And for him, like most managers, of course, and Pep says it often, you want the best players, you got to spend money, but that's just the nature of football. It's the nature of sport. So unless if they're willing to splash a little bit of cash, they'll be in the Europa League next season again because of their finish in Serie A. they're going to have to spend some money, I think, if they want him to stick around. Otherwise, like you said, it's probably something to implode on the cards. It is once again for a 7th time Sevilla, who are the champions of the Europa League. And now it's time for the big one, the Champions League final. Manchester City had the opportunity for an incredible and historic treble opportunity if they won the Champions League against Inter Milan. After a scoreless first half, it was Rodri who popped up in the 68th minute, which turned out to be the match winner. It's Manchester City who are crowned European champions as the winners of the Champions League. And incidentally, they also went undefeated in this competition's entirety. Gitano, first and foremost, I want to say congratulations on this to you, as it is the first time that Manchester City, your club, have ever won the Champions League. And second, I want to ask, for you personally, and most people watching our show will really understand this, but for those who are just casual fans of the sport, it may take some doing to truly understand this. What does this mean for you?
So first of all, thank you. Yeah, it was huge. Like I said, it was the longest 90 minutes of my life. That was it was so. It was just. I'm still struggling for words with it. It doesn't feel real yet. Kind of in the aftermath of the game, like when the pictures come out, like I change my phone background, like I do all that, and I still, like, every time I open my phone and see like Gundo lifting the Champions League trophy, it stops me for a second. Like every morning so far, like Saturday or Sunday morning and Monday morning, I've woken up and like when I see that, I'm like that happened. Like I've ordered the commemorative scarf and like t-shirt, but it doesn't feel real. It feels like I'm gonna wake up tomorrow morning and it's gonna be Saturday morning again, and we're gonna have to like go through that. Yeah, it's just it's it's like, literally watching a dream come true, like right in front of your eyes. I sent you the clip of me watching the few seconds there, and like you can see the moment when it clicks where it's like, oh, like it's happened. And then it was, crying on my floor for about 10 minutes. Yeah, I trimmed the clip for you, don't worry.
Yeah, no, it's that's sports, man, isn't it?
Yeah, it was just, I've been supporting this club for about 15 years now, and it just, in those last minutes, it really didn't hit until kind of like the 85th, 86th minute, when I just started kind of, everything started running through my head. Like when I first started watching soccer in my friend Cam's basement, I'd bike to his house in the morning. We'd watch the Premier League games in the morning, spend the afternoon at Tom Tipton kicking around, recreating all the goals that were scored that day, and then go home and play FIFA till 3 a.m. and rinse and repeat every weekend, in high school.
Yep.
It was that, and, remembering City getting out of the Champions League group stage for the first time, celebrating that, and then playing Barcelona 3 years ago in the round of 16, like, and then it was like the slow progress, and then, finally making the semifinal and losing to a Fernando own goal, and then, making the semifinal again and getting to the final and losing to Chelsea, the disallowed goal against Spurs, blowing the 3-1 lead against Madrid last year. And it just kind of all started flooding back, and then the final whistle went, and yeah, it was just a dream come true. Yeah, I really, it's still, like I said, it doesn't feel real yet. It hasn't sunk in. I don't know when it will sink in. They had the trophy parade today. Like,
Yep.
I've seen all the pictures. I know we've won it, but it just doesn't feel real yet.
Do you feel like, even though it doesn't feel real, and I can only ask this question because my club hasn't done it yet, and I'm hoping that in my lifetime that we do in fact do it, but do you feel like because this was the one that you were missing in your trophy cabinet, like, even though it doesn't feel real, does it feel like a weight has been lifted? Or
Oh yeah, like just seeing the trophy with like the baby blue and white ribbons was, more like that to me alone was worth, every heartbreak in the last, 15 years supporting City. Yeah, to see Gundo lift the trophy, it was just, yeah, I truly never thought I would see the day. Like, really, and I was happy with that. I was at peace with it. I've always said that winning the Premier League is always kind of the most important. Proving your consistency over a 38 game season against the best teams in the world, to me, it always feels a little better than like a cup competition where, I don't want to disrespect Inter here, but their path to the final was nowhere near as difficult as City's. City played Leipzig, Munich, and Real Madrid. So I've always felt that it's a little, and it can be imbalanced sometimes. So I've never held it kind of quite as high, but like I wanted it. I wanted it really, really, really badly. And yeah, to finally get it is just, yeah, as just indescribable.
You and every other City fan, because everyone had been talking about like how badly the club needed this, right? And finally now you do have it, but you spoke about imbalance, but you know what that is? That's tournament football. You can
Yeah.
look at that from a youth point of view, you can look at it from a professional point of view. You can have those imbalances, but the fact of the matter is the best team did win. The best team almost always wins, and I'm really happy for you, man. But on the game itself, in my opinion here, and this is just my opinion here, I found it to be a little bit all over the place in certain moments, or at least in patches. Both sides made mistakes, none of which really turned out to be costly, but it was a little bit uncharacteristic from both sides to make the mistakes that I saw throughout the match, the likes of poor giveaways, sloppy passing, players falling all over the pitch due to some very slippery conditions, even on goal kicks and things like this, the goalkeepers falling down, some very poor set pieces. Kevin De Bruyne, obviously with the hamstring, that never really looked right. But particularly in the first half and in the early stages of the second half, there were things in that game that just didn't look right to me. Was it just nerves, Gaetano, or was this a case of defensive schemes, particularly from an Inter point of view, that caused these mistakes to happen?
I think it was a bit of both. I think Inter set up really, really well tactically to kind of counter Man City. They didn't really give John Stones that freedom that he's had in midfield in recent months, which has been huge for us. He's been one of our best players. Um, so I think that was definitely part of it. And I think nerves got in there. Obviously, it's the Champions League final. I don't think many of these players have played like in major finals like this before. Only the few Man City players that played in the 2021 final. And I don't think anyone out of Inter's starting 11 ever has. So I definitely think some nerves were involved in there as well. But yeah, I really, from a tactical perspective, really liked Inter's setup. It countered Man City very, very well. Holland was, pretty quiet all game, which we haven't said a lot this year. And yeah, I think the mistakes were just, were going to happen naturally. A few more than, as a fan that you would have liked. But I thought, yeah, mostly tactical, I would say.
Yeah, and as you know, you coach, I coach. More times than not, and I've been a part of many a finals as a coach, you almost never have your best performance in a final. Almost never. It's it's a case of you're going up against difficult opposition. Inter set up really well tactically, so it was always going to be difficult. But I like how you say a bit of both, because I do agree that it probably was a bit of both there. And going into the match, Manchester City were the favorites. That being said, so many people counted Inter Milan out of the match before it even began. In the end, it was actually Inter rather who had more shots on target than Manchester City, if you can believe that. Gaetano, people probably don't realize just how close this game actually was between possession statistics, attempts on goal, attacking opportunities, those defensive errors that we just talked about a little bit earlier, and even set pieces. How close was this game from someone like yourself who had a vested interest in it?
If Lukaku puts a header a couple inches either side of Ederson's leg, it's a tie game in what, the 70th odd minute.
Yep.
Like it was that close. Even off that save, the ball, Ruben Dias heads it away, could have very easily headed into his own net. It was not far off. Like it was a game of inches the entire 90 minutes in stoppage time. It really, really could have gone either way.
Yeah, and then there was that crossbar moment, and then the header that hit Lukaku's heels. If he's not in the way, maybe that one goes in, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like you said, a game of inches for sure, and it really did come down to fine margins in that final. But in the end, it is Manchester City who complete the historic treble, the Premier League, the FA Cup, and now the Champions League, all in the same season. This has only ever been done once before in England, and that was when Manchester United did it back in the 1998-99 season. As you said, they have the past, you have the present. That is 100% true. But Gaetano, did you ever think, and I know you said as a City fan, you probably never thought that this could happen, but as this season was going on, did you ever think, okay, this could be a possibility? And my second part here is, do you ever think that this is ever going to happen again for any club in England?
So at the start of every year, it's like just a City thing. You go, we're on for the quadruple. We'll win the Prem, we'll win the Champions League, we'll win the Carabao Cup, and we'll win the FA Cup. And like it's super unrealistic, and that's the joke, is that it's not ever going to happen. Haha. We have managed to pull off the domestic quadruple once, which was phenomenal. Hasn't been done before. Hadn't been done before. Hasn't been done since. Probably won't happen again. that alone, the domestic quadruple in 2018-19, like that felt like that was once in a lifetime. That was, the peak. 4 trophies. We're never going to be better than that. I really, at no point in the season until after the 2 semifinals, when we were in the FA Cup final and the Champions League final, that's when the first kind of like, oh, we might actually do this. And even then, it was a fever dream still. It was like, City will be typical City and we'll, lose to United or we'll lose to Inter or we'll blow the league and not get a treble. Like there was something bad was going to happen. And, so then when we won the league, it's okay. We have 1 down, still the 2 finals to go. Still, we can typical City this. And then we beat United. And then it's like, okay, like this is on the grandest stage of all is going to be the most typical City of all. Like it really did not, like it did. I didn't feel it was going to happen until the ref blew the final whistle in Istanbul. That was like the honest truth. I thought, Inter was so good. They had chances. Some City players played probably their best games ever for City, and Ederson being one of them. Yeah, until the referee blew the final whistle, I did not truly believe that the treble was possible. And I don't want to say we'll never see it again because, we might, but I wouldn't count on it.
Fair enough. And it's one of those things that in football, we say it all the time on Full Time. It's football, anything can happen. So we could see it, but the likelihood is not very much. But it's the treble being a possibility until very late. I have to be honest with you. Do you remember the 2-1 against Fulham away?
Yes,
Early May?
very, very, very late Holland penalty, I think, won that one.
Yeah. So that one is when I said, okay, I think they might do it this year. And then it was sometime around May 12th when I tweeted that City will win the treble. And again, this is somebody who is like an outsider looking in because I'm not a City fan, obviously, but I thought to myself, there's something that is just telling me that they'll do it. So I actually had this belief even before you did. But again, you're nervy about it. I'm not, because obviously I'm hoping that it doesn't happen because I wanted Arsenal to win the Premier League. But I had this feeling in that 2-1 against Fulham, I'm like, City weren't great in that game, but they're doing what they have to do. And I'm thinking, okay, this could happen. And then it was that mid-May moment where I'm like, yeah, I think they're going to do it. And sure as all heck they did. But once again, congratulations, Gitano. You fully deserve it because Manchester City, the rightful and first-time winners of the prestigious Champions League 2022-2023 season. This is Daniel Scarpino and Gitano Gallo, and you are listening to Full Time on the Game Sports Show. A reminder that Full Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza. You can download and access the Pizza Portal app for any of the 2 locations in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Have a delicious hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars today. Gitano, we are now embarking on that point in the season in the MLS where things start to take some kind of shape. Gee, what have you been making of the league thus far?
It's been really, really exciting. Obviously, the Messi news has kind of it felt like an adrenaline shot to the league, but the play on the field has been super, super good. A couple surprises still. St. Louis City still sitting top of the West right now. Never saw that coming in a million years. Toronto FC sitting in 12th in the East. They're just painfully bad. But yeah, I think outside of TFC being terrible, I think the league's been great so far this year.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's been great on weekends to be able to turn on as we do every year. And, whether you're out somewhere, whether you're at home or you're just getting home from being out somewhere and you're flicking it on and you've got your football to watch and it's right in your backyard. I think it's just so great. And in the East, it is Cincinnati who are at top with 40 points. They are 8 points clear of second place Nashville. In the West, St. Louis are top of the conference, but a significantly tighter race over there as Seattle are in second. On a personal note here, our team, Gitano, as you were just talking about, Toronto FC, are 12th in the Eastern Conference and having the most difficult time just winning a game. They currently have 19 points, but the more staggering part of TFC's season is that in the 18 games that they've played, they have 10 draws. They really just can't get over the line to win a game. Gitano, first your thoughts on the top of each conference, and second your analysis of what is actually going on with TFC at this moment in time, because Lorenzo Insigne banged an absolute screamer just a few days ago, but again, not enough to get over the line.
Yeah, so I mentioned St. Louis sitting on top of the West. I don't get it. It feels very much like the Vegas Golden Knights in the NHL, where it's like this expansion team comes in and they're just great, and that's not supposed to happen. They're supposed to suck for a little bit, but I am also happy that Seattle is not in first, because I have a deep-rooted hatred for them. So it's very nice to see that. And Cincinnati and Nashville sitting on top of the East is a really kind of welcome surprise. A couple of the typical big hitters like New York City and Atlanta and New England have kind of fallen off the pace a little bit. So it's a really wide open race there. And TFC, they have been struggling. Like, they don't have a spine in the team anymore.
Yeah.
I think it was super important they got Sean Johnson in, other than his mistake on Saturday night, which was horrific, by the way. Other than that, he's been playing really well. He's great, but we don't have a real solid center back pairing, and we haven't replaced Michael Bradley in that kind of defensive midfield. He's kind of holding the team together. And I think until that gets sorted out, they will continue to struggle and they'll continue to not win games.
Yeah, and my preseason prediction, I even think I actually said it on this show, but certainly with everyone that I had talked to, I think that Toronto would push for a playoff position this year. I never thought that they'd make any noise, but that they would push for a playoff position this year. And we know about this in North American sports, like of NHL, NBA, etc., that you could push for a playoff position. Doesn't mean you're going to get it, but at least you're going to be in the running for it. I don't see that that's going to happen. See where the next, where 3 points are going to come from. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just, it feels like it's one step forward, two steps back. So, we get Insigne scoring goals, and then Sean Johnson has a howler. Like, it's just, yeah, I think it's just gonna be a season like that, unless they, unless MLSE wants to splash the cash on a third DP in the summer and bring in like a real game changer. I don't know who they would bring in, who's going to be available, and kind of what kind of budget they're going to have for that. But unless they bring in someone to change something, and I would not be against a coaching change either at this point in the season. If it runs like this all season, it's going to be a long season for Toronto FC.
Yeah, I think so too. And as I said at the beginning of our MLS segment here, this is where at point of the season, 17 games, anywhere from 15 to 20 games, you're looking at the league really starting to take shape. So if this is how things are going to be, it's going to be a long road ahead for TFC, but we'll definitely keep folks updated here on Full Time as to how things go in the MLS, and especially for Toronto FC. Folks, it is now time for a local and regional soccer update. In Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, it's men's, women's, and youth soccer that are in full swing. Men's games take place at Superior Heights Soccer Field in the evenings from Sunday to Thursday. Women's and youth games take place at Strathclair Park in the evenings from Sunday to Thursday as well. Occasionally, Women's League is played at the historic Tontoton Park, as well as those games being played throughout the week. Gitano, how have you been enjoying the start up to this season so far?
It's been good so far. It's nice being back at the outdoor fields. I love the NCC, but anytime you're like out, you have all the fields, everyone's playing on all the fields. It's a great feeling.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I was actually having a conversation with a buddy of mine at the gym today, and he was saying the exact same thing. It's nice to get off the indoor turf because the body needed a break, and it's nice to get back outside. It's definitely a different feel, isn't it?
Yeah.
And in high school soccer, it was St. Mary's senior girls who won their regional competition of NASA and were able to attend the prestigious OFSA competition in Cobourg, Ontario, just this past week. After finishing the group stage with a perfect record of 4 wins, 0 draws, and 0 losses, it was on to the quarterfinals. On a historic note, no Sault Ste. Marie team had ever advanced past the quarterfinal stage at OFSA, my team included back when I was in grade 13 at St. Basil. However, history was made not once, but twice, as the senior girls team won the quarterfinal and the semifinal and advanced to the provincial championship. Unfortunately, it was penalties that was to decide the final outcome, and St. Mary's fell just short. That said, a historic feat for the Sault Ste. Marie side, finishing second in the province, the first time such a triumph which has ever been accomplished, in the sport of soccer in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Gitano, I'll start with this. It's so difficult to just reach a cup final, as you know, and obviously it sucks to lose in cup finals. We both experienced being on the winning side this past indoor season, but it sucks to lose in cup finals. And just for context, because I just want to stick with high school soccer here now, from this point of view, I've coached now for 5 years in high school soccer, but I'll just focus on the last 2 seasons because I've switched now to a new school coaching. In the last 2 seasons alone, I've reached 2 cup finals as a coach, and I've lost them both. And it's incredibly difficult. But this team here, they reached a cup final at the provincial level. Just how big of an accomplishment is this, despite the fact that they fell short on penalties?
It's massive, and I know they probably won't see that, definitely not right now, maybe not for weeks or months, maybe even years. But I think at some point in their lives, they will look back at this and realize like that is just a ridiculous accomplishment to be, the second best team in the province, to go to penalties and lose too, which is just even worse. Yeah, it's a huge, huge, huge accomplishment.
Yeah, and it's something that I'm not sure if anybody would have ever expected out of a team from Sault Ste. Marie. But I mean, those players, that coaching staff, that program, which I used to coach for 3 years, I was able to win 3 leagues and 3 city titles there. They've got to be so proud of their players. But I think the way you said it was really, really good in the sense that they might not see it today, not tomorrow, weeks, months, maybe years, but at some point they're going to look back on it, and I'm sure that they're going to be proud of themselves. They deserve a ton of credit. And G, I've been able to play in this prestigious provincial event in 3 different sports, one of which includes the sport of soccer from my time at St. Basil Secondary. And for me, being able to play in that OFSA competition for soccer against the best of the best in the province, I can honestly say that it was an honor in and of itself to just be there. But for this group to be able to capture a medal on this stage is something that we may not see for a long, long time again. So, in your opinion, Gaetano, do you think that this is something that can go down for a young player as one of their greatest ever achievements in the sport?
Absolutely. I mean, like I hold my indoor title that Barcelona won a couple months ago, very very near and dear. My house league hockey playoff wins. Like I still celebrate those. I still am friends with a couple of the teammates from those teams. Like those are hugely formative moments. And we played house league. It was not this level. It was not provincial level. So I think absolutely this will unless a kid from that team or two go on to play at an even higher level, maybe, a university, professional league, even a national team, who knows? Like until they kind of hit those levels, like this will probably be one of the highlights of their life and absolutely should be.
I agree with you 100% because I reflect back to my times at OFSA and some of the most formidable moments that I've had in not just in my soccer career, but in my sporting career as well. So I think you hit it spot on there. And once more, a massive congratulations to St. Mary Senior Girls Team for being the only Sault Ste. Marie representative at the provincial championships this year, by the way, and bringing home an incredibly honorable silver medal, which once again has never been done in the history of Sault Ste. Marie soccer at the high school level. This is Daniel Scarpino and Gitano Gallo, and you are listening to Full Time on the Game Sports Show. A reminder that Full Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza. You can download and access the Pizza Portal app for any of the 2 locations in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Have a delicious, hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars today. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Full Time. As we bring today's show to a close, we want to extend our deepest gratitude for your support of us. Bringing you content throughout the last 7 months has been nothing short of incredible. Gaetano, although there is no off season in soccer, it's not like traditional sports. We are entering that quote unquote down period, if you like. We have had a heck of a ride in all facets of the beautiful game for the last 7 months, and it's been brilliant to be with you on this show. Another great one here tonight, probably your favorite of the lot. Well done, my friend.
Yeah, it's been super special to be able to, I'll never be able to forget this season, not only what happened on the pitch, but the fact that, you brought me into the full-time family. And, it's been perfect. So thank you so much for bringing me in on this. It's been an absolute pleasure, talking soccer with you, almost every week for the past few months now. Yeah, it was a phenomenal season. I'm really looking forward to the off season, and I also can't wait to get back into this with you for some silly transfer season because that's always fun.
Always a good time indeed. And yes, the past 7 months, they've been hectic. We've been talking footy every week or every other week. And it's been really great. And being able to get the support from the likes of people in our community, the likes of the folks in Michigan, which has been great because, of course, when this show started with Scott Nason, God rest his soul, there were so many people from Michigan who support our show. They continue to support our show. And I wouldn't want to do it with anybody else other than you, brother. So thank you so much for everything that you've been doing for our show and that we've been doing together. It's been awesome. A reminder to our listeners that the next episode of Full Time will be recorded the week of July 10th, 23. So we are going to be taking a little bit of a break here, folks, and a little bit of off time because, again, there is no true off season in soccer, but now we do enter that down period, which is very short because we only have about a month before things really turn around. So we're going to take a little bit of time here for the next 3 to 4 weeks, and then we'll get back to you folks about everything in the world of soccer. And in that next show, we will have a look at the MLS. We'll preview the upcoming summer transfer window because, as you said, Gaetano, some funny stuff certainly is bound to happen this summer. And we'll have a look at local soccer as well. And if there is any updates that happen in the world of soccer, we'll be sure to keep everyone up to speed. For weekly content, make sure to hit like, follow, and subscribe to all platforms of both the Game Sports Show and the Game Entertainment and Media on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Podbean. Be sure to check us out at our website at www.thegamesportshow.com. That's www.thegamesportshow.com. For Gitano, Gallo, my name is Daniel Scarpino, and thank you for tuning in to Full Time. We look forward to seeing you at kickoff next time back here on the Game Sports Show and the Game Entertainment and Media. Best always.